And the winner is 29-year-old Trixie Maristella of the Philippines has been crowned Miss International Queen 2015. The Filipina beat 26 other hopefuls in the contest in Pattaya, Thailand, billed as the world's largest transgender pageant. Second and third place went to contestants from Brazil and Thailand, respectively. Maristella explained how important the pageant is to the transgender community.
Miss International Queen made us feel that we are very important people, and because of that we gain confidence and we are empowered to do whatever it is that we want to do in life.
Despite events like this, Thailand remains a largely conservative society, with no laws recognizing same-sex unions. But it does have a prominent LGBT community, with many members playing leading roles in its entertainment industry. Changes to gender categories on national identity papers are currently not allowed in Thailand. Although a panel drafting Thailand's new constitution said it was considering including the term third gender for the first time to empower transgender and gay communities. That measure has been put on hold as the draft constitution failed to pass in September. Thailand continues to be the country that performs the most gender reassignment surgeries.
At Cannon City High, officials have suspended an unknown number of students for exchanging hundreds of explicit photos of other students, some as young as 8th grade. And in New York, a Long Island school district has suspended dozens of students for sending or receiving sexually explicit videos.
It's impossible to believe that your son could get in trouble because somebody forwarded a video to his phone that he has no control over receiving it.
Authorities in Colorado say teens were swapping nude photos of each other like trading cards. They then hid them in smartphone apps designed to look like calculators.
Hold your fingers on it for 3 seconds, type in the code, and now it's a hidden photo vault where you can see all my pictures I'm hiding from my parents or anyone else.
The current sexting investigations have caught students by surprise. Many in Colorado say sexting was common at Cannon City High and that few realized it's a felony, on par with child pornography.
You don't really think about it until it actually comes up, you know? Like, we're young, we're stupid, we're gonna do things like that.
So much of the time, technology outpaces policy, and I think that's what we're seeing here.
Prosecutors say they'll use common sense in deciding what charges students should face. And Colorado lawmakers are considering legislation to turn sexting charges into mere misdemeanors. One study shows more than half of all teens have been asked to send a nude picture of themselves, and that 1 in 4 teens have done so.
6-year-old Jeremy Martis died in the front seat of his father's vehicle with his dad at the wheel. Investigators say both father and son were shot by Marksville police officers Norris Greenhouse Jr. and Derek Stafford. The officers surrendered Friday night and were charged with second-degree murder for the death of Jeremy and the attempted second-degree murder of his father, Christopher Few.
Did you guys intend to kill that father and son?
Neither officer would say a word as they were rushed out of the Avoyelles Parish Jail in handcuffs. A law enforcement source tells CBS News the officers will not tell state police investigators why they wanted to pull over Mr. Few on Tuesday night, starting a police pursuit that ended in gunfire. Mike Edmondson, head of the Louisiana State Police, has seen the video of the shooting.
It is exceptionally rare in a case of an officer-involved shooting for an arrest to happen within 72 hours. How key to these arrests was that video?
That video was incredible. I mean, as a father, much less head of the state police, I looked at that tape and I said, this is incredibly disturbing.
CBS News has learned it was a third officer who recorded the shooting with a body camera after he responded to a call for backup. According to our source, that officer told investigators Christopher Few was not acting in a threatening manner toward police.
Initially, there was a report that Christopher Few had a warrant out for his arrest. Turns out there is no warrant. He had no gun in the vehicle. What was that man doing to warrant that traffic stop?
I think the rest of the investigation tells us that. I mean, we've got to look at everyone involved, and we'll get to the part of that. But what we learned from the very first night, what we heard an hour after that, was that they were trying to effect an arrest warrant on a traffic stop. Not factual. not factual.
Colonel Edmondson says initially the two officers now charged with a crime claimed that Christopher Few tried to reverse his vehicle and ram it into one of their police cars. This is the cop car that was reportedly hit. The damage appears very minor.
Was Christopher Few someone who deserves blame here?
Well, it doesn't seem from what we see, because we don't know why they were trying to chase him.
A source tells us the two officers now arrested fired a total of 18 shots at both father and son. Mr. Few was shot twice but survived and is listed in serious condition at a local hospital. The Avoyelles Parish coroner says young Jeremy was shot 5 times in the head and chest.
I can tell you he didn't suffer. He didn't suffer. And his dad was near him, but he did not suffer.
David joins us now. David, do we know why these officers were trying to pull over Christopher Few?
I got to tell you, in 15 years of reporting, that is one question I've been trying to ask for 3 days, and the answers have been some of the most bizarre I've ever gotten. There was no warrant. There was no 911 call that they can find. There was nothing to indicate why these two officers, who were moonlighting as deputy marshals at the time, would have wanted to pull over this man. Nothing. Nothing to indicate why they would have turned on their lights, their sirens, and pursued him through the streets of Marksville, down a dead-end road that led to the shooting.
Bolivians have celebrated an ancient tradition rooted in indigenous practices, where people adorn and honor skulls called natitas, which they believe bring them good fortune and protection. The natitas spent most of the year indoors, but are traditionally decorated and paraded to the cemetery a week after All Saints' Day. Friends and family adorn the skulls with hats and flowers. They give them food and even cigarettes during the festivities. Even the skulls of unidentified deceased take part in the party. As the afternoon wore on, participants danced to honor the skulls. The Roman Catholic Church does not endorse the practice, but when the cemetery's parish refused to open its doors to the Day of the Skull believers 12 years ago, they threw stones at the church and broke all the windows. Now the parish is open to believers for a blessing ceremony. The Natitas tradition, a fusion of Catholic and indigenous beliefs, is traditionally practiced by the country's indigenous groups.
This is the cemetery of Saint Panteleimon, the Christian Orthodox saint who has mercy for all, even for those with no name and from a different religion. Buried facing Mecca, in this corner lay dozens of Afghans, Syrians and Iraqis who drowned at sea. Most are never identified, their names read unknown. Some of their ages too tender.
We are burying babies, and mothers sit here and cry. They start from 4, 5 people together, and on the way only 2 remain. Isn't this sad? No matter how hardened you are, you feel the sorrow.
Death certificates of drowned refugees keep coming to Christos Mavrakidis' office. These days, several bodies remain at the island's morgue, but he cannot bury them.
I've been screaming for 3-4 years that there's not enough space for these people. In 2013, we buried 13 people on this plot, then more in 2014, more in 2015. The problem got bigger, and we are where we are today. There is no more spaces to bury these people.
This was the last burial space found for the last 5 Syrians and Iraqis far away from the plot reserved for the refugees.
The founder of a secretive Catholic group in Peru is under investigation. He's accused of physically and sexually abusing children for decades. And as CCTV's Dan Collins reports, the scandal could spread to other countries.
The allegations have shocked Peru's largely Roman Catholic society. The investigation was prompted following the publication of the book Half Monks, Half Soldiers by authors Paula Ugas and Pedro Salinas. They interviewed 30 former members of the Catholic society known as Sodalicium. Salinas, himself a former recruit, alleges brainwashing and abuse were part of daily life in the group.
de un movimiento que tiene una estructura.
We're talking about a very authoritarian organization in which one person had all the power, and that person, as the investigation shows, abused his absolute power through physical and psychological abuse, intercepting mail, human rights violations, humiliations, and in extreme cases, the sexual abuse of minors.
That person was allegedly the founder, Luis Figari, accused by 3 unidentified former members of the group. A former candidate for sainthood, Herman Doig, the organization's number 2, is also accused of rape and sexual abuse of minors. He died in 2001. In 2011, 3 men who were minors at the time the alleged incidents occurred lodged complaints with a Peruvian church tribunal against Figari. Peruvian bishops are calling for the civil courts to deal with the allegations. But Figari is in Rome, where Sodalicium says he's under a regime of prayer and retreat. Prosecutors say the statute of limitations has likely run out as the alleged offences occurred in the 1980s and 90s.
Sexual abuse is alleged to have taken place here in what was Luis Figari's home in Lima. He's no longer in the country to answer to those allegations, but Catholics and non-Catholics alike are calling for greater accountability and more transparency from the secretive organisation he founded.
The scandal extends beyond Peru. Sodalicium has a presence in schools and churches across Latin America, in the United States and Europe. And more alleged victims are coming forward.
This is one of the world's most sacred places. But inside Jerusalem's Old City, panic ensues after Israeli forces shot a Palestinian carrying a knife. 2 Palestinian miners are reported to have stabbed and wounded an Israeli security guard in a separate attack. A police spokeswoman said the boys were around 12 and 13 years old and stabbed a light rail security guard in Pisgat Ziv. The guard shot back, wounding one of them. Moments later, a Palestinian carrying a knife ran towards 2 security guards near Jerusalem's walled Old City. The security guards shot and critically wounded him. This area is disputed territory, land that Israel annexed to Jerusalem after the 1967 Middle East War. Since the 1st of October, Palestinians have killed 12 Israelis, and Israeli forces have killed at least 73 Palestinians. This is widely considered to be the worst wave of Israeli-Palestinian violence since the 2014 Gaza war, and shows no signs of abating.